What's up, everyone? It's BRAP. It's Wednesday. We just had a PlayStation State of Play 2025. With me, I have Game Logic. What's going on in Game Logic?
Not much, man. How are you?
I am doing well, man. Everyone and their mother, by the way, is doing a reaction show right now. So I don't know if right now is the best the best time to do reaction show because, like, literally everyone is doing one right now.
That's right. At least you didn't do a live reaction show, which I think is one of the not smartest trends in content creation. But that's it is what it is.
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't focus on the show and do. I can't focus on the State of Play and on top of that, like do like the live stream. It's just I want to be able to sit back and enjoy the shows and kind of absorb everything that I'm seeing without having to entertain people. So, but welcome everyone. Please hit that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. And Hamp. So this is PlayStation's first State of Play for 2025. And I kind of half joking. I said I need bangers. They typically don't show the bangers per se during the State of Plays, but I would like to see as somebody who enjoys a lot of the I own a PlayStation for their first party games mostly. And so I would like to see some of the PlayStation bangers. But that's a me problem, right? I know everyone's going to feel differently. I'm not going to assume, or I'm not going to rage about it. Just something that I would like to see from them in the future. But they did, they did show a lot of games with a lot of release dates. So I think from if you're a PlayStation consumer and you're like, hey, what am I going to be playing in the next couple months? They gave you some things to chew on. In terms of release dates for third-party games. We knew some of these third-party games are multi-plat games, as well as some other games. Actually, they did have one first-party reveal, which I'm excited about. I was happy to see it. So Logic, let me pull up. Give me a second here. I need to pull up this article. All right, here we go. So these are some of the games that they announced today. They started off with Monster Hunter Wilds. I used to play Monster Hunter when it came out to console a couple years ago, but haven't really played it since, to be honest with you. But I know that there's people out here that like Monster Hunter, so I did see some people on social media express I would say they were happy with seeing a new trailer for Monster Hunter Wilds at the PlayStation at Sony's PlayStation State of Play event. So the devs did confirm that there's some additional content that's going to be arriving for free after the game launches, including a fresh and terrifying monster. Logic, what do you think of the Monster Hunter Wilds revealed?
It wasn't a reveal. Like, we knew that was coming. There was no surprise. And it should have been expected that it was going to be in the show, given its impending release date. So, it looked fine. It looked great. It looked fine. It's been tickling the piano keys of Monster Hunter fans, I think, since its reveal. So I don't think there's a ton of questions really around Monster Hunter Wilds. So it was a good safe pick to open the show with. Like I said, not anything surprising, and probably doesn't, punch you in the gut unless you are right in that wheelhouse demographic of people who are looking forward to playing Monster Hunter. And it's really, and by this point, you've played the beta, so you've probably made up your mind, in a lot of cases, if you were really interested in it. So it's fine. It was a good safe choice, right, to open the show with.
Yeah, no, definitely was. And then they follow that up with I don't know if this is. I'm assuming this is an order, by the way. I think the games listed here are in order, but they did show Shinobi Art of Vengeance, which I'm I'm excited for Shinobi Art of Vengeance. I grew up playing Shinobi, the Shinobi games on the Sega consoles back in the days, And so it's great to see that they showed Shinobi Art of Vengeance. I thought it looked great, by the way. Love the aesthetic. Yeah, this is definitely one that's on my radar. This game actually got a release date as well. And actually, they're not showing the release dates here for Shinobi Art of Vengeance. Showing. I have to see if I can find an article that has release dates. But this one again was one of those other games that was given a release date. So, any interest here on Shinobi Art of Vengeance?
Definitely interest. Again, I'm more of a live service game player now, so I don't know when I'll get around to pulling this into my rotation. But as a old time Sega fan, and a person who comes from that culture, I mean this would normally be a huge land for me, and something that I've been. I have a ton of nostalgia around and have been looking very forward to them bringing it back. Very confused over the decades since we've seen a Shinobi game as to why we haven't seen one. Cell shaded looks like. So again, my feeling about cell shaded games is I keep finding whenever I go back to Borderlands that cell shaded games tend not to age in terms of their graphical presentation. So as long as the res is kept up with any new res options that come into the field based on the evolution of technology, I think cell shaded games tend to stand the test of time. Again, as long as they keep up with the res and as long as they keep up with new aspect ratios, ultra wide screen presentation formats, etc. So probably a pretty good choice. But my worry and concern is, Prince of Persia hit a lot of those same drum beats this year. Should have invoked a ton of nostalgia. I can't remember if that game is cell shaded or not. But should have done similar things that we're expecting for Shinobi. Now, Sega maybe has more gravitas right now in terms of consumer uptake than Ubisoft does. Ubisoft has, a 20% wedge of cruft and crud that people seem to feel like are associated with the brand. So that may have impacted it, but should hopefully do well and it should be well received.
Yeah, actually, I want to pull up the trailer for Shinobi real quick. I can't pull it up now.
Its release date is August 29th.
August 29th, yeah. Yeah, so
one thing I do want to do as we're unfolding these, I have a key question, which we may get around to tonight. We may hold till Friday, right? Which is this whole thing of, was the show good or not? And I have problems in many cases with the rubric that I think the gaming community applies, because quite frankly, I don't think that they have a rubric.
I think they do, Logic.
What's that?
I think it's bangers. I mean, like all jokes aside, I mean, I'm one of those individuals. Although I don't solely rate this game on whether or not they showed first party bangers, but I do think for some people that's the rubric. Did we see the next latest and greatest from? I know people are probably going to complain about Ben's Studios. We'll talk about Days Gone remaster. I'm sure people are going to complain about that, but I think that's the rubric for some people in the community. Did I get the next, game from Santa Monica, or did we see Wolverine? Did we, where do they go? When are they going to show us what Blue Point's working on? I think that's part of the rubric that people use with some of these state of plays.
Yeah, so that just leads to the question: is A, do you only want to see states of play when there's something big to show, which means you're going to get less frequent ones, right? Which if that's what you want, great. Then that means that I always talk about you need to test the hypothesis by litmus testing the antithesis, right? Which is that then don't complain about not getting frequent states of play, right? Because those two things aren't harmonious. Then the question also becomes, so if you say you only want to see bangers, if you see a bunch of, right? Because let's say you have a show with 2 bangers, right? Very often that means that one of those is appealing to me, but the other one isn't. So is that the only thing that you want to see? If you see like several smaller games that are of interest to you, does that not qualify? So it just brings up a lot of questions. So we have comments in the chat like, it was a very poor show, right? My question is why? PC Guys Miami, they should have held this until they had something epic to release. Again, I have the same question. So are you saying you only want to see shows when there's something big to release, which isn't going to happen that frequently? BM asks, where is Wolverine? Death Stranding 2, The Beach, Ghost of Yote. Again, so you only want to see a show right when they have specific things to show. And again, I don't I'm not saying that you have to have my perspective. I'm trying to understand the perspective, because in our show and on E2KG, right, we explore a lot of, why do people feel this way? Why is this the perspective? How is a thing going to play with the demographic? And I'm still struggling to understand what the perspective is on these marketing events. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I want to see bangers. I mean, I want to see Wolverine, Ghost of Yotei. I want to see what Sony Santa Monica is working on. I know apparently Cory Barlog's working on new sci-fi exclusive for the PlayStation. I want to see those things, but I also understand that typically state of plays are not really showing the bangers, if you will. It's more kind of a roadmap of titles for the PlayStation consumer, the general PlayStation consumer. Hey, here's what's coming to the PlayStation. If you're a PlayStation owner, here are the games you could expect to play this year, 2025. Like Shinobi got an August 29th release date. That is a game that I'm going to be playing. Definitely go pick up Shinobi Art of Vengeance. Yeah, there's some games here that I'm not going to play that just aren't games that would appeal to me. But I will say this. We can talk about this later, but I do like the release dates, and I think we'll get into that later on here as we go through the list of games that they showed off here.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll say, and then I'll let you move on, is I don't even think it's a matter of it being a show for the general consumer. I said this maybe a couple of years ago. My feeling now is in this age, and this started when Jim Ryan was still in the seat, I think these things are now just regularly planned. They're on a steady cadence and a steady drumbeat, and it's poll the studios, find out everything that is ready to be shown. We're not going to show things that aren't ready.
Yeah.
And out of the 25 inputs that we get, we're going to down select to 15 that we're going to show, and that's what we're going to show. And it is a roadmap show. And to me, it's not even tuned to the general consumer. It's just, here's the roadmap. The roadmap's in execution. Here's what's ready to be shown. That's what's going to be shown. And I think even as Jim Ryan was in the seat, the way this thing was moving was it becoming less of a thing of where the CEO needs to personally preside over the hand-picked down select right of things that are shown. It is just business as usual. I think it's a guess. The show was mostly put together right by Sean Benson, in conjunction with Herman Hulse or one of his deputies, or just working with the studios, and then Herman did a gloss over it to do the final approval. But I don't think it is as much of a level of effort and gymnastics as it used to be when these things were looked at as marquee events. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick, big shout out to Lois Esprit who's gifted 5 BRAP memberships. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that, Lotus. Then they announced Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. I actually liked what they showed off of the of Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. It might be a game that I actually might pick up because it could be something that I play with the kids. I know my family would enjoy a game like that. So that's actually on my list of potential games I might pick up as well.
Not in my wheelhouse. I mean, look, I love Sega spiritually. The Sonic Racing thing to me always feels like let's try to be Mario Kart, and there's no way around that. And I feel like it doesn't differentiate itself as much as Crash's racing game.
No.
But that may be subjective.
Yeah. Then they showed us Digimon story. Digimon Time Stranger. So they announced that as well. Not something that I'm interested in. And then they showed Lost Soul Aside, which is that's part of the China Hero project, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That I'm not sure. I'll look it up. But that one looked great to me.
That I believe it is part of the China Hero project, if I'm not mistaken. That actually did look good. I was like, oh, and this is an action adventure RPG, and I thought that looked really good. Like that's and it's available for pre-order now. That is my that's definitely my on my to buy list. See, I thought I had. I'm sorry, give me a sec here.
And what was the title on that game again? So Lost Soul Aside. Okay,
Lost Soul Aside. Yeah, I'm trying to look for. I should have written down. I was watching the show and then also wrapping up work at the same time. So I'm trying to look at the
May 30th, 2025.
Okay, so we got a release date for that, May 30th, 2025. So for me, there's 2 games I'm definitely going to pick up. May is stacked, by the way. April and May are stacked. You think about what's coming out on because I am back on Game Pass now. The release of a bunch of games that are releasing through Game Pass. April, May stacked for Game Pass, and now Lost Soul Aside, which is releasing May 2025, is another game that I want to get as well. All right, and then we had Paul Heyman.
Hey, and one thing I wanted to enter, I mean, you corroborate, but I wanted to confirm it. Yes, that is a China Hero Program game. Okay,
gotcha. All right. I believe that's been on Slow-Mo's radar for some time. I know he's talked about it quite a bit on his show and on DPS podcast as well. Then they showed WWE 2K 25. Welcome to the Island. I thought this was kind of interesting because this really is a first of you see it here touted to be first of the kind for the franchise. This is actually really. This kind of takes the game, and I haven't played 2K in a while, WWE 2K. This kind of takes it to kind of more of a live service type game. This kind of open world experience where you can, buy, different types of skins, things like that on the island.
Interesting, but my prediction is that the live service component of this will roll up shop in about a year.
You don't think it's gonna get its hooks into people then?
No. I mean, I could be wrong. Look, you know me. I'm never going to put anything past Strauss. So maybe he's got something here. I mean, certainly there had to be. We know that, right, with Zelnick, there had to be some quantifiable, right, KPI oriented pitch by which this thing got approved. So maybe there's more scratch there than I'm thinking of. So we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an evolution of the WWE 2K franchise. They've never done kind of an open world type experience with all this customization, these stores that you could go through. I don't know if you saw the island, different wrestling. There's different like wrestling matches on the island, heavy character customization. Like to me, it kind of makes sense in the WWE world, especially if you're creating your own character. I guess, I mean, this game really, I think, caters to more the fans of professional wrestling or sports entertainment, if you will.
Well, this is what I wanted to ask you, right? To me, whether or not this thing goes or doesn't is tightly coupled, super dependent upon the tide of WWE fandom. And so my question to you is, we often talk about the Attitude Era. We often talk about the Ruthless Aggression Era. My question for you is, do you feel in the wake of the Vince McMahon stuff that the tide for the WWE brand is on the rise or on the wane?
Oh, it's definitely on the rise. I mean, they could, from a booking standpoint and from some of the new, from a character development booking standpoint, they are firing at all cylinders. I mean, they have a talent problem, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that they have too much talent. And that's a good thing. That's a good problem to have for WWE right now. But there's only so much limited television time, right? And so they actually just I don't know if you follow wrestling, professional wrestling news, but they just actually released, I believe, 10 or so WWE superstars. I forget all the ones they released, but one of them, I have to go back and look what they released. Sonya Deville was actually one of the more notable ones that they released. They released some other ones, but and I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these superstars end up in AEW or TNA, the smaller competitors to WWE. But I mean, the WWE really, I mean, post Vince McMahon, since Triple H has taken over, they're really firing at all cylinders. Triple H has done a better job, in my opinion, booking than what Vince McMahon was doing prior to his leaving WWE as a result of the scandals and the accusations. I mean, like, you look at
this, despite that Bobby Lashley gets no respect, but we'll let that go and pick that up another time.
Well, yeah, I mean, Bobby Lashley's now at AEW. You know, he's probably getting paid well to go there, and he's with Shelton Benjamin, MVP. They formed a new version of Hurt Business called the Hurt Syndicate. But AEW has its own issues that I'm not going to even get into. I just think from a booking perspective, WWE is firing all cylinders. From a merchandising perspective, buy-ins, attendance. I know Triple H likes to talk about, oh, this is the biggest gate ever. Well, no shit, Triple H, because your ticket prices have also gone up too. Of course, it's going to be the biggest gate. I do think that this game, to your point, goes as far as the WWE fandom's willing to take it. It's going to be interesting to see if they have WWE fans or fans of professional wrestling really buy into this kind of open world experience. I would imagine that WWE is probably going to market the island quite a bit. I think they already have, if I'm not mistaken. I may have seen this on Raw, but obviously the WWE has a lot of reach from a marketing perspective. They're going to market the hell out of this game. I think it could have some legs, maybe. But to your point, I mean, like we always talk about live service games, it's not the first 3 months, 6 months. It's what happens after that.
Yeah. Tangential aside, I was very surprised to see no video game commercials during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, actually, I was surprised too. Think about it. Yeah. Interesting. Like, I was thinking about that. I was thinking, like, what if we saw GTA 6, like some kind of teaser trailer, coming soon?
So it's interesting that you bring up GTA 6. I think that that treads on the next game we're going to talk about.
Yes, the Randys showed up and gave us a release date for Borderlands 4. It's releasing September 23, 2025. Now, you said something interesting to me in text, Logic. I'll let you share that with our viewers about this release date.
So Gearbox is now owned by 2K. I'm going to double down. I say absolutely no way in the world Zelnick, 1, agrees to that release date, 2, agrees for it to be revealed in this show without Gearbox having some clarity on what the potential release date is for GTA 6. I think that they picked that date knowingly fully aware that that is not going to conflict with what's going on with GTA 6. So to me, that means GTA 6 has to be launching at least 30 days prior to or 30 days after Borderlands 4 is coming out.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Logic. I don't think Randy releases that game if GTA 6 is releasing September. Like I mean that I don't think 2K, like I don't think Strauss and company say, you know what, we're gonna cannibalize Borderlands 4 for GTA 6. I think if GTA 6 comes out this year, I think it comes out in November. I think probably gives Borderlands maybe a month or a 2 month, window to breathe a little bit. And then, they release GTA 6 in November. I could be wrong. Maybe they do in October. I still think October would be kind of close. So that's why I'm leaning towards to November, but I don't disagree with you, Logic. I think Randy, I think this is telling, I think, in terms of what a potential release date could be for GTA 6 could be.
Yeah, if November, I feel like early November to be well ahead of Black Friday, with the expectation that Black Friday burns up, right, tons of console sales.
Oh, absolutely. Can you imagine like GTA 6 November 5th release date, right? A couple of weeks before Black Friday, and then Black Friday consoles, you can only play it on PlayStation 5. You can only play it on Xbox Series consoles. I mean, going to quote you here, Logic. I would imagine console sales are going to go bonga along with GTA 6. I think this is going to be a big. It's funny, always people talk about the quote unquote console business dying, or there's no growth. You're going to see a shot in the arm, I think, with hardware sales because of GTA 6 and software sales because of GTA 6. I know Matt Piscatella of Circana, formerly NPD, has kind of alluded to that could be something that happens as a result of this big release.
I think Compost Smurf brings up a good point in the chat, and that was one other point that I was going to agree with some of the naysayers about this show, which Lotus Esprit says that the show was trash. I don't believe that at all. But he did say, I have a PS5 Pro, and the only one I will play is Days Gone Remastered, and I do think that was a problem for this show. I did not see enough content that, to me, tickled the piano keys of people who have a PlayStation 5 Pro or are looking to buy a PlayStation 5 Pro. And this was, for me, was about the time that I would have been looking to buy that I was looking to buy a PlayStation 4 Pro. I didn't buy it the holiday season it released. I bought it the following holiday season when I started hearing a lot of buzz when people were doing these comparisons between the PS4 Pro version of a game and the PS4 version. And I started hearing, and I think it was Dishonored 2 maybe, that particularly was the inflection point for me. But but it was some game. Maybe it was Prey. I can't remember, but there was some game that I heard. I was listening to a podcast, and they were saying no, there's a substantial difference in the PS4 version. So without clarity on a lot of reasons for the PlayStation 5 Pro to be launching in holiday of 2025, I do feel like that was a shortfall in the show.
Yeah, I mean, they still haven't given me a reason to buy a PlayStation 5 Pro. You know, it was I trying to think back to the PlayStation 4 Pro. I just feel like there was more meat on the bone from first party to in terms of just persuading me to go out and buy a Pro. Like, this is why I need to upgrade. God of War was coming out. I forget when did the PlayStation 4 Pro launch? I forget. Was it 2018? No, it was 20.
It was a year before the Scorpio launched.
Okay, so that was. I think it was 2015. If I'm not mistaken. I gotta look this up now.
Yeah, it was 2016. It was 2016.
Yeah, so and so there was a bunch of first party games that were coming down the pipeline, big first party games, and I was like, okay, I want to have the best console experience of those games, and that's why I got the PlayStation 4 Pro. They haven't done that for me just yet, and I don't think GTA 6 will be that game that kind of tips me over the edge to go buy Pro. I probably need a game or two more to take me to that point where I'm like, okay, I need to go out and get the Pro now.
So Chad says in the chat, every single game had Pro enhancements. Mick Pratt says GTA 6 isn't enough to buy a Pro. Hey, Retro, thanks so much for swinging through the chat. We appreciate you. So Mick Pratt, for me personally, GTA 6 isn't, because that's a GTA's. I haven't played a GTA since Vice City. It's just not content that's really in my personal wheelhouse. But more so, like, what I'll say to address it is answering Chad's question, which is that every single game had Pro enhancements. That may be true. First of all, terminology. And again, I may be wrong, but my feeling is that there's with all of these console updates, there is a bundle of stuff that happens simply because you play the game on the console, right? That are things that are implemented at the abstraction layer, and that they enhance the game, whether the developer did anything to it or not. Then there are specific implementations that the developers actually go in and code that are specific to that hardware set. I think that the terminology that's used is enhancements, right? Those are those baseline ones that don't really particularly make any difference to me. So what I need to hear is that the developer did something specific for a PS5 Pro version, and that's what I'm saying I didn't hear in the show. Just popping that PS5 Pro banner or whatever thing at the bottom of the trailer doesn't move the needle for me. I didn't personally see that on all of them. Maybe that was there, but whatever. My point is that in terms of evaluating the marketing of the show, that wasn't messaged to the consumer in a sufficient manner, in my opinion.
Yeah. I see Chad says, so you're looking specifically. Okay, got you. Okay. All right, let's go to Directive 8020. It's a creators behind Until Dawn. And this one looked kind of interesting. Not something I'd probably buy, but I thought this looked interesting. Very much like something from the creators of Until Dawn, but I thought it looked pretty interesting.
I thought it looked great. Same thing as Lost Soul aside. I think the premise and the setup of the plot sounded great, resounded with me very well. I thought the graphical presentation looked awesome. A little bit too much like The Thing. So I was like, oh, they just took The Thing and just did a riff on the theme. So maybe that's there. A little Event Horizon, maybe a little bit too. But at the end of the day, I think a great thing to have in the portfolio. Right, that's the big thing. And this is what I go back to about, like, was it a good show or a bad show? Like I said, it's a roadmap show. And so what you're conveying to me as a consumer is this is my portfolio. This is what I've managed into the production pipeline, right? We talk about all the things that I say about Xbox, about not great portfolio management, not great production management of the production. Actually, quite honestly, from a software engineering perspective, I think pretty horrible management of the production pipeline. But this is a show that, to me, and again, I get that that's that's messaging that I specifically attenuate to, is how is the production pipeline being managed because of what I do for a living. But I think from that perspective, this show did that. And one of the ways they did that in the show is they showed a wide degree of variation of content, right? That's coming onto the roadmap, and they put release dates for everything. So my feeling is, if you're a PlayStation 5 gamer, and you're not Twitter centric, right? You're not like basing your judgment based on what the rabble is saying, and you're just basing it on what are the things coming that I'm going to be playing on my console this year. I feel like this show did a lot for showing the variation, the differentiation, and the consistency, right, in what's coming up and showing up in the portfolio seasonally, like right every quarter. This is one of those things, like you said, I'm not a big survival horror fan. That's not my bailiwick. I'm not a big Dead Space guy, or some of these other games that are in that part of the spectrum. This is where that is where this sits. But as far as actually originally I was like, is this? I don't keep up with Resident Evil, but I was like, is this a Capcom thing? But yeah, I think this was a good salvo to fire for the show.
I like that you compared it to Event Horizon. It does give me Event Horizon vibes. I know they say that you cut like Aliens franchise. I think Event Horizon is probably more appropriate than Aliens. I mean, I could see why they would say Aliens because it's in space, kind of that survival horror vibe, but definitely more Event Horizon. I just went back and played the trailer. Now watching the second time, I'm like, oh, actually, I mean, I would think about like games like Dead Space, right? The Dead Space remake was actually done really well. Yeah, maybe. I mean, if I have time and time's limited for me, maybe this could be something that I just pick up and play. Something. Hopefully, it's not a game that's requires too much of my time or thinking. Sometimes I want to be able to play games I could just pick up and play and just be entertained. And hopefully that's a game like this. Until Dawn was kind of like that. Maybe this is some of that too. Interesting though, they take the formula of Until Dawn, and we see this. We'll talk about formula later on in the show, but they kind of take that formula from Until Dawn and they apply it here in a different setting. I think it's really cool for them to do that. So now watching the trailer again, I'm like, oh, this game's probably on my radar now.
I would say one other thing I would say that was a nit that I had with this show is, in addition to not having things that to me were PlayStation 5 Pro centric, is there were a lot of games in the show. There were some games, this is one of them, that showed graphical muscle. And I know that I said, it showed me a wide degree of variation, right, in the type of game. I feel like, and I haven't done the counting, right? I often say this, that we make comments about things like this and they're very subjective. And then when you actually go back and look at it from a data-centric perspective, you find out you were wrong, right? You were just saying something based on how you felt, not based on how I feel. Like there was a 2/3 of content that were like, I don't know that I need a PlayStation 5 to play this, right? That just, you weren't representative of things that need a lot of graphical power and muscle behind them, versus a third that were things that were kind of like at that upper crust. So that might be a slight issue, but again, that's just a gut feeling. May not actually be objective.
It's interesting you say that, because as I was watching the show, I was actually kind of thinking the same thing. There were some games here that I'm like, okay, these are games. If I'm on the PlayStation 4, I don't feel like I need to go out and run out and buy a PlayStation 5 now. Right or wrong. But then I'm thinking, there's some games that are coming, dual releases. I mean, Sony's keenly aware that, hey, you know what? There are going to be people that just don't feel the need to upgrade to a PS5 right now. We still need to sell software to those people, right? They're still in the ecosystem, and we're going to make money doing it. I mean, I get the argument. People are like, oh, they should be moving people to PS5. I get that, but there are people that aren't going to move to PS5, and there are going to be people that want to consume software on PS4 still. And so Sony's going to leverage whatever or release games, dual releases, because they're going to make money off those games on PS4. I mean, there's still a lot of PS4s out there. Still a lot of people playing PS4s. I don't think it makes sound business sense to just abandon ship and say, you know what, if you want to play software, new games, you got to buy a PS5, because we know what the consumer is going to say. Well, after you, Sony, you're not going to force me to go out and buy a PlayStation 5 when I'm not ready to.
Well, I mean, how would PlayStation be able to force you when Xbox is forcing you to to say that every one of your screens is an Xbox.
Oh man, I was trying to I was I was trying to figure that out the other day. My new truck, I was looking at the LED screen in my truck. I'm like, is this an Xbox? And I was looking for input for controllers. I couldn't find one, so I guess it's not an Xbox. But anyhow.
So a good question from Chad said in the chat. Haven't Sony said no more PS4 development? They have said that for that applies to their studios. Obviously, if a third party studio wants to target PS4, then there's nothing that can be done about that.
Yeah, and they're not going to mandate to third party studios don't support the PlayStation 4 because we want to. I guess I should have said that. Like that's they're not going to sit there and say don't make games for the PS4 because we want people to go to PS5. That's just not going to happen. There's still money to be made there, and obviously Sony gets a 30% of the cut. So, all right. Then it showed off Five Nights at Freddy's, Secret of the Mimic. Got a release date. Another game with release date coming out June 13th, 2025. I've never been interested in Five Nights at Freddy's. All right. Then they showed us Darwin's Paradox. I don't.
Did you skip the Midnight Walk?
Did I haven't got to that one yet.
That's not. What site are you on?
I'm on Dextro.
Okay, so on the rundown on Polygon, I believe there was the Midnight Walk after Five Nights at Freddy's, and that is reads a handcrafted dark fantasy adventure to be released on PlayStation 5, and this is what caught my eye. It's a PlayStation VR 2 title as well, which is what was really surprising to me.
I was surprised to see that. Why is Midnight Walk not here on the site? I'm sorry, go ahead.
As far as I know, I don't believe there's planned direct support for VR 2. So I guess this is, I didn't look at the publisher. So I guess this is either third party or this is just them flushing the remainder of the production pipeline. Either way, I mean, I think it's awesome that the game is not VR2 required, which means it might get some play for regular players. I did think it was super interesting from a stylistic perspective. Kind of feels like it squats in that same zone that Bijou Bayou is targeting. And I call it Bijou Bayou as my cutesy nickname. Because I can never remember the Things of Midnight. I can't remember.
South of Midnight?
Yes, South of Midnight. Yes.
Yeah, I don't see that here. I think that game's missing here on this particular website, but I'm glad you caught that, Logic. Thank you. Then we got Darwin's Paradox. That was arriving sometime in 2025. We also got Warriors of the Abyss. That was a launch trailer. It's dropping on both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. And then we got Onimusha, Way of the Sword. Now, they did show Onimusha, the remaster as well, before they showed Onimusha, Way of the Sword.
Yeah. Can you, actually, I apologize. I off track for a second. Can you scroll back up? Because now we gotta check that they didn't miss things on Dextro. So yeah,
I think they did.
Darwin's Paradox, Warriors Abyss.
Mm-hmm.
Which was another game that I thought that's a Koei game, right? That's the one that's like a riff on the Dynasty Warriors formula.
It is. Yeah, it is like a riff on Dynasty Warriors. Yeah.
Okay, which is super interesting. I mean, it's super interesting from a production perspective because they just put out Dynasty Warriors Origin, so it's interesting that they had another team or just were able to parallel up and concurrently put this through production. But yeah, then it should have been Onimusha 2 Samurai's Destiny, as you mentioned, which is a remaster that they're only coming out with a PlayStation 4 version of.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that.
Yeah,
because I want to play that remaster.
well, you can. I mean, my comment. Yeah. I mean, you can play anything on the PlayStation 5 that's right on the PlayStation 4 Pro. On the PlayStation 4, it's just not going to be a PlayStation 5 PlayStation 5 specific version. And my guess to you is this is just a matter of portfolio and production pipeline management, right? That studio is obviously focused on Way of the Sword as their critical release, and probably just spared some additional capacity, right, in sprint planning, in pipeline planning to cover down on the Onimusha 2 remaster, or maybe the Onimusha 2 remaster was maybe even outsourced, which would again explain you know why. And in terms of scoping, right, kept it to just, you know, doing something for the PlayStation 4 rather than doing the extra effort for a PlayStation 5 version. But, you know, who knows?
And then we did get Onimusha Way of the Sword, which is they revealed this game was revealed last year. I forget what was it at the last state of play? I don't remember now. Or was it the Keeleys?
Yeah, I can't remember. Or wasn't that a Capcom event?
I don't remember, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll look it up. I do want to address one thing in the chat. And again, I'm doing this out of interest. So Feed on Land says PlayStation is dead, and that state of play was ass. Now, I am probably thoroughly convinced that Feed on Land is a non-intellectual console warrior. But I'm just going to pull that thread and invoke this question, because this really gets around to the meatball of my question, really, when I talked about, like, how are we judging these shows? For years, and I was one of them, we've said that Xbox has been having good showcases. And I was actually a person who said that through last generation, all these times during the Layden regime. Lots of times I saw this thing of PlayStation 1 E3, and I'm like, really? How? Like, what? And I always felt Xbox had the better shows. And then there was the time period of June 2022 through, I want to say, going into 2024, where I felt the Xbox shows just were, well, in addition to just being full of disingenuousness and what they messaged, were not great shows. But since last year, since South of Midnight made its appearance, really, we've come back to this claim that the Xbox showcases are great. Like, every single time I see that was great, you know, this is Xbox's year, blah, 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 blah. And so one of the keys for me in people's takeaways on these shows are, for a year or so now, people have been saying that the PlayStation shows are not great. But then we get the financials. And the financials don't corroborate with the notion that the shows are bad. I mean, maybe the shows are bad, but it's clearly not business impactful. So to me, I say, what does it matter? And why are people expending so much energy running around Twitter talking about how bad the shows are? And yay, verily, maybe people are separating those things. And then with the Xbox shows, it's the kind of the Xbox shows are great. And then again, we get the Xbox financials, which are just a backslide of without historical precedent, right? I don't know that I've seen this much backsliding from a financial perspective outside of the years that Sega was dying their last gasping breath to the point they were forced out of the hardware space. Now, obviously, that won't happen to Xbox because Xbox is backed by one of the few members of the $1 trillion club, and so there we are. But we come up with these notions of how these shows are, and then I go, but I mean, regardless of what your opinion is on the show, they're clearly not business impactful if you think that the PlayStation shows are bad and the Xbox shows are great. So then I go, so I'm not going to, like, again, spend a lot of energy grousing about each one either way. So that's just a curiosity to me. But please go on.
And then we got release date trailer for Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. That will be coming out August 28, 2025. Look, I am a fan of the Metal Gear franchise. I don't know if I don't know if I want to. I don't know. I'm torn if I want to go back and play this one again. Maybe. I don't know.
I will say I'm not as diehard of a Metal Gear fan. Like, I feel like Metal Gear peaked with the original on PlayStation. But what I will say is I have been highly doubtful of a post-Kojima Metal Gear. But this one restored a little bit of my faith in terms of, like, this one looks like it's going to be pretty good. So I'm going to kind of wait around and see how this sticks to the landing. Eric Cuts in the chat. Thanks for
what's up?
We appreciate you.
Hey, what's up, Cuts? I don't know, man. I mean, when Snake Eater came out on the PlayStation back in 2004, PlayStation 2, I mean, it was a great game. I don't know. I don't know if I want to revisit this game or not. I mean, there's games that I've in my lifetime of gaming have played, and I'm like, oh, these are great. This is a great game, and I just won't go back and play them again. I don't know why. I don't know. This is one of them. Yeah, Cut says, good show, lots of games this year. Seriously, it's insane. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's my ultimate takeaway from this show. And combine this show with the developer direct. And there's like I said earlier, there's a April and May are stacked. This is a stacked year. As much as people complain that there's not enough games to play, 2025 is. I thought 2024 was a decent year. I think 2025 is shaping out to be a pretty good year. You factor in some of the bigger titles like GTA 6 maybe coming out end of the year. So
yeah,
possible Nintendo Switch 2 launch.
But BRAP, the internet has been telling me that this is a down generation for gaming, that it's mid across the board on all consoles.
This is, and that's why I don't understand the conversation about, especially specifically in the console space, that console space is dying. It's AAA games are not sustainable. And then we see AAA game releases. We see continuous investments in games that are releasing on console. I mean, what the businesses are set. Let me say this again. What the developers are producing and what the publishers are investing in it's almost contrary to what some of the pundits and YouTubers are saying about the state of the industry. And so it really makes me question. It makes me question, like, are you guys really gamers? and I hate saying that, but are you guys just grifting? Because what I'm seeing from the developer direct and this show is completely contradictory to what the pundits and YouTubers are saying about the state of the industry, the state of the console space. I mean, I almost think that part of the issue really is that there's too many games to play.
Oh, that's absolutely the issue. I mean, you have the issue of inventory at retail is flooded to the point of it is very 1983-ish. Just tons of shovelware, right, coming across the wire. But then you have like shows like this, and even in combination with Xbox's slate, right, with the fact that Avowed is coming out this month. And then they showed a slate of 3. I mean, they only showed 4 titles in their show, which I feel a certain kind of way about. But when you combine that with Avowed coming out this month, they have a full slate, right? A reasonably full slate for the first half of this year. We should also give a shout out to Mary Wilcox. I apologize for that. Mary Wilcox carrying the load for the mods in the chat. So we appreciate you as well. So yeah, it's interesting. And somebody also asked what game was shadow dropped. That was Warriors Abyss. Was shadow dropped. I think it is available today. I want to say, was the Onimusha remake also available today? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
Okay, I'll take a look. I'll look that up. But Warriors Abyss was the one that definitely dropped today.
I just find it fascinating, Hamp, that these pundits are like, "Oh, the sky is falling," and then you have the industry saying, well, look, are they issues in are they issues in the gaming industry? Absolutely. But there's issues in every industry. There's issues in the fast food industry. There's issues in in the semiconductor space, with GPUs and CPUs. I mean, I don't understand the sky is falling perspective. It's really weird.
This is the only plus $90 billion in industry that constantly touts how it is the largest entertainment sector and has the largest amount of growth, that also consistently gets, oh my God, the sky is falling, London Bridge is falling down. Let's all go cower in our caves and disconnect from the internet and come out when it's over. Like it's just amazing to me. Onimusha 2 did not shadow drop today. Pre-orders went live today. That game comes out May 23rd. And again, that's the remaster.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. And then we got, by the way, if you see any games that are missing here from this list, Logic, please let me know. Then we also get Hell is Us. So we get a release date of September 4th, 2025. This one actually looked kind of interesting to me too. I thought this looked pretty good.
Yeah, I thought this looked good too. Look, again, I am mostly a live service person right now, but if I applied my old rubric of how many games came across my windshield that interested me, I've seen lots of people in the chat say 5 or 6. I think Eric Cutts also mentioned kind of a similar order of magnitude to what she's interested in. This show would have been a huge problem for me because I saw in excess of 10 titles. that I was interested in personally from the type of content that I used to play. And that's even discounting the survival horror thing, right? Just a lot of games came through here. And I'm also not talking about like indie level stuff that like was of low graphical fidelity. Like I think I disproved my gut feeling that I mentioned earlier, that I felt like I saw a lot of like PlayStation 4 era graphics things here. And I think there was actually objectively more than that.
Yeah, I guess what I find, this gave me Kojima vibes, by the way, this game, particularly Death Stranding a little bit. And this game actually looked pretty interesting. I guess what we talk about punditry and stuff. What it's also funny too is when people say the gaming industry isn't taking chances. I could maybe see that argument about maybe first party more so. But you're seeing chances. You're seeing developers take chances on different types of games, new games, right? I mean, we're seeing that like with Hell Is Us. It's a new game. It's coming out September 4th, 2025. This next game, Lies of P Overture DLC. I thought Lies of P borrows from some of the Souls formula, but again, a newer game that was released. It came out 2 years ago. It's crazy. It came out 2 years ago. I just find it interesting, Hamp, that there's a lot of these complaints, and then when I see these shows completely debunk some of those things or some of those issues or challenges that some of the pundits and YouTubers say the industry's having.
I partially agree with you. I will say I feel like this show was an inflection point from what we've seen over the last couple of years. And again, that's a subjective feeling, so it may be driven by feelings, not actual me counting the numbers. I feel like, and I'm not even talking specifically about the PlayStation portfolio. I'm just talking about the industry overall. I feel like in the last state of plays, we've seen a good amount of remaster palooza, right? Re-release palooza. I feel like even though we got Days Gone remastered, we got the Onimusha 2 thing. I want to say maybe one other remaster thing that we saw in this thing. Like I felt like there were, as you mentioned, there were more games that were at least variations on a theme. Not necessarily new games or new concepts, but remixes of other concepts and story, right? A lot more dependency on story than just mechanics in this, right, in the overall portfolio of games that were shown. And I do feel like that's a thematic difference than what we've seen over the last year, maybe 2 years, specifically at the PlayStation show. And again, that's a matter of what I see was reflected in the industry here. Even going to, you're going to mention it later, to the EA game that got marketing, placed marketing front and center here. So I mean, hopefully that's a good turn, that maybe people are feeling less risk averse than they have over the last year of the post pandemic. The industry's not growing, mess. But I do feel like that was a turn that we saw in this particular show in comparison to the last one. But like I said, again, that's just a feeling.
Yeah. So mention Lies of P. We got new DLC. Lies of P Overture. That's I don't think they gave a release date for that. Maybe I missed that. Let me see here. I thought they did give release date for Overture, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, summer 2025.
Okay, so they gave us a window then, summer 2025. Okay. Dreams of Another. It's a announcement trailer. I thought it was kind of interesting. I thought it looked like Post-its. Probably the best way to describe it. Play the trailer here. This was kind of it's also a PS VR 2 game, by the way. I thought this game
who's
creatively looked interesting.
Who is Pixel Junk again?
I don't remember.
I can't remember again, because the games they've done have not been in my wheelhouse, but I want to say that they have done some names of particular note. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'll look that up.
Yeah, I thought this looked interesting, and not a game that I'm interested, but I just see the visual aesthetic, the approach to, using shooters, from the third person perspective. You talked about developer talked about using taking the elements of shooters and applying it to kind of create this world. You see that when he's shooting, like the world interacts where he's shooting. But I thought this was looks interesting, but not a game that I'm going to be playing that I mentioned, but visually speaking, from a creative perspective, I thought it looked pretty cool.
Yeah, I think what they leap to mind for me is Pixel Junk Shooter, which was a 2009 release on the PlayStation 3. That was a particular note, right? It really even before the PlayStation 4 launch, kind of really started their kind of ramp up and to focus on indies, which I think has waned over the years, but there was definitely a period of time in the late PlayStation 3 generation and culminating in kind of the launch of the PlayStation 4, where there was a heavy emphasis on them cultivating indies right after kind of Xbox dropped the ball with the Xbox id effort and some of the baggage that went along with that in terms of policy that Xbox was imposing. I think this was maybe the period of time that PlayStation kind of was swooping into the space to try and capitalize on that ill will that had been generated. But yeah, that's why Pixel Junk springs back to mind.
Gotcha. All right, and then we got the Days Gone remastered. Look, I played Days Gone back in 2019. I enjoyed it. My one complaint is it's a little bit too long-winded. I thought the story could have ended a little bit sooner, but I enjoyed it. But not something I'm interested in revisiting. What's going on, what's up, Forte?
What's up, guys? Yoshi here.
Oh boy.
I saw more games being played laying on the floor in front of the bed when Princess Peach and Mario were playing, and it wasn't with a controller. Just letting you know.
Oh my goodness.
Yoshi has spoken.
Oh, that's hilarious. What's up, Forte?
What's going on, guys? You had a chance to speak to my dog, Yoshi.
Yeah, no, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. See, I did drop the link in the BRAP DM.
You did. Well, I would have came earlier, but me and Slow-Mo were streaming it too, so.
Oh, no worries. Hey, what did Slow-Mo think about Lost Soul Aside? I know that was a game he was following. Was he excited to see the release date?
Yeah, he said it's about time. The game's been in development for 10 years.
It has been in development for a long time.
It's about time. They announced that game before God of War 2018, and it's just the only thing he said about that game was you could definitely tell by some of the stuff looked like it was a little out of date because the game, that inherently that kind of is what happens when games take a decade to make. You just see some stuff that's kind of like that when you kind of just do the same thing, because same thing happened with Cyberpunk too, and we saw how that game kind of turned out. They'll probably fix some of that stuff, but yeah, the fact that they actually gave it a date was incredible.
Yeah. Okay.
Know about the rest of the show though, but whatever.
Yeah. Then we got Stellar Blade DLC.
Yeah,
that's
cakes and butts.
Yep, that's coming. That's coming out June 2025. That'll be coming out to PlayStation 5 and PC. So I need it. I never got back to Stellar Blade.
Did you never beat it?
No, I never. I played the demo and I never picked it up.
Yeah, just let you know. No, don't do it to yourself. You weren't interested. Just keep on moving.
No, actually, I was interested. I just didn't have the time. My time these days is very limited.
Once again, gaming time is irrelevant, because if you really want to play something, it's at the top of your list. If you don't want to play it, it will find its way not even in your library, like this game did.
I mean, I don't totally disagree with you, Forte. Like, yeah, I mean, there's games where like, oh, I'm playing this. I'm not,
It did. It's like unless you find it for $10 somewhere in the bin, or PlayStation does it for 85% off, and you be like, oh, you know what? I'll do that. And then you'll buy it. But a lot of people love the game. I mean, the game's not bad. It's just that by this time, if you haven't played it, it's like, is this DLC really going to move you?
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I hear you. They did reveal Tides of Annihilation. I thought this looked pretty cool. This looked pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, like
coming to Xbox, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure many of these games are coming to Xbox as well. But yeah, I was like, this looks actually really good. I'm intrigued.
That was me and Slow-Mo's favorite game of the show.
Oh, was it? Okay.
So, absolutely. By far.
Right.
Stellar Blade, I can't remember if you mentioned it, but Stellar Blade also coming to PC on that same day.
Same day. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
I'll play it then. Unlimited frames.
Yeah. Logic.
And the mods are going to be incredible for that game.
I heard. Yeah, I'm sure they are. So Forte, you and Slow-Mo thought Tides, or you Tides of Annihilation was your favorite announcement trailer from this today's State of Play.
Yeah, because they actually because it was something different and they actually show a lot of gameplay for it. And I was like, yo, this looks really cool. And the biggest thing for us is gameplay is always going to trump an announcement if you can actually show me what the game looks like and what it plays like. And I think they did both. Just the aesthetic of it. It had like a lot of different things going for it. We really don't know what the direction is, but I'm interested enough to like want to go on that journey to find out what it is.
Yeah, no cuts. I didn't play Stellar Cheeks. I only play the demo. Logic, what did you think of Tides of Annihilation as a new game announcement?
If this was old game logic, this game would be on the list.
All right, then we got Metal Eden. So I thought this was kind of interesting. Not that I'm. I don't think this is something I would play. I just thought it was kind of an interesting game. A lot of parkour movement. Coming out another release date, May 6th, 2025.
So Slow-Mo will play this. I will play it also.
I was thinking Slow-Mo would definitely play this. So Logic, this is something you're going to try out then.
It's a shooter, and Slow-Mo and I pretty much play all the shooters. So,
okay. What about you?
Him and Slow-Mo are bind at the hip, literally.
Are they really?
They are bind. Yes, they are.
Oh wow. Okay.
Or bound, I should say, not bind. Bound.
You forced a little bit of that bond because whenever you attack Slow-Mo over him spending money on GPUs, I feel attacked. So we had to create that alliance.
That's fine. Listen, and I outspent all y'all, so so I can't really talk. But I still say just get the best thing you can buy instead of buying it twice in a generation. Buy it once.
You know what's crazy is it's funny you talk about spending money, and I've been going through this like this. Someone else said this too. I don't know who it was. Talked about I forget who it was, but sometimes your hobbies, your interests change as you get older.
They do,
and not that I'm going to ever stop playing video games, but I've gone down this rabbit hole with this truck that I just got, and it's funny. Like you mentioned GPUs, Forte. Yeah, you mentioned GPUs. I'm looking at tires that cost as much as those high-end GPUs. Like it's crazy.
Not even for the set.
Yeah, just for the set. We're talking about a piece of rubber. There's more. It's not just rubber.
What kind of truck?
I got a Silverado 2500 heavy duty.
So you tried to put tires on that Bitfoot would wear.
Yeah, I mean, the tires I have now are the
30-inch wheels on the Silverado.
I'm not getting 30s. That's crazy.
I mean, you want to put it way up there where even the step ladder doesn't help you.
No, I'm not going to be doing all the lifting or leveling of the truck. People do that. I'm not doing that. It
does look good when they do it though.
The leveling looks pretty good when you level out like where the front is even with the back. The leveling of the trucks looks pretty good, but I'm not going to do it just because I got to tow a trailer and you level, then you got to add airbags to the back potentially to keep the trailer from sagging down the truck.
You're definitely going down the rabbit hole if you.
I'm going down.
You definitely went down the rabbit hole.
So
I'm with you. Sometimes that's what happens. You don't.
Yeah.
It's not that you get away from games, but it's like your interests just kind of flip for a while until. And it's not that you out of games. It's just that nothing has really captivated you enough in games to make you be like, oh, I can't wait for this. And you know how it is. It's like that hobby that keeps on giving. And when it's not giving you what you want, you find something else to do until they give you what you want. And I was there a couple of years ago where I barely played anything for like a 6-7 month period. And I was just going down the rabbit hole. Matter of fact, my game room, I went down a rabbit hole with this game room, just redoing stuff for like 6 months. Like didn't look at gaming videos, didn't look at anything. I was just looking at RGB this and how to set up a really cool game room. And I went down that rabbit hole for like a good couple of months before I settled on what I wanted to do. So cars, that's a whole nother, that's a life.
Oh, it is
right there.
I'm looking at like upgrading my rear view mirror to like Nice. There's I forget the name of the brand, Wolf something. They make a rear view mirror that you install cameras on the front dash in the rear, and you see everything through your rear view. And it comes in like 4K display. I'm like, I've gone down a rabbit hole.
Those are cool.
They're cool. But anyhow, this is not a truck show; it's a game show. So we'll go back to gaming related
Whatever
topics.
you want it to be.
That's true.
It's your show.
We got Mind's Eye, a gameplay reveal. Logic, this is the game by I forget his name now. Used to be at Rockstar North, worked on GTA 3.
Oh yeah. He came on screen and gave his James Bond screen test. So after this trailer, I think I approve. I'm fine with him being the next 007.
Yeah, and you could see, I mean, there's a lot of GTA influence here, but you could just see it by looking at that opening trailer.
Driving. Yeah,
driving, shooting. I mean, look at that. I mean, it's a guy who was behind GTA 3, and I forget GTA Online. He actually was in a I'm forgetting his name now. It's actually in a lawsuit with Take-Two Interactive, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when he left. Something happened. He unpaid royalties, I believe it was, over the Grand Theft Auto. But I thought this looked interesting. This game, again, a lot of GTA DNA. Not surprised, considering the person behind it. But this one looked pretty interesting. All right. And then we got this. Oh man. No, I didn't pick up on this. Logic did. But we have a new title from Sony's more recent acquired first-party studio, Housemarque.
Yeah.
Saros. I'll play the trailer here. What'd you guys think?
I thought it looked good. Of course, there are two words that are part of my nopes: roguelite and roguelike. And I barely predicted that this was Housemarque when the guy said the thing in the trailer about each time I come back stronger. I was like, oh, this is the next Housemarque joint. And then of course they revealed that, moments later. So I thought looks great. I feel like this is a step up in production quality, at least at the trailer level from what they showed before. I mean, they're clearly now in the fold, right? Before they were just onboarding into PlayStation. Now they are firmly part of the PlayStation family. And I think we see that production quality in this reveal, which is a step up from, what the way we initially saw Returnal. But yeah, I think, as you mentioned, BRAP, like this is something that's in your wheelhouse, much like a Souls game. And so, you guys are going to be very excited as well. Maybe you should be. So yeah, I think this is good for portfolio. I think it's also good from a marketing perspective. I think PlayStation knows that they're getting lots of heat for not showing lots of first party stuff. So I think it's, a shame that they didn't have more than one first party title to show. But good to not walk out of the show showing no first party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Forte?
I thought it was really, really, really cool. We don't know anything about it, which is one thing, but other than the fact that, like he said, like Logic J said, I think the When I Die, I Come Back Stronger really just instantly told me exactly what kind of game it was going to be. But the trailer, I mean, like he said, from an aesthetic point of view, I think they did really, really well in the announcement of that. But I'm just waiting to see exactly what's more going to be on it. But Housemarque was one of my favorite developers under Sony, so I'm definitely looking forward to this. And I know if Returnal was one thing, this is going to be another. And the fact that they announced that it's going to be single player, I guess means the whole co-op aspect is out the window. But I guess they can always add that in later on, like they did Returnal too. So, but I'm very excited and interested.
I think. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Forte. From an objective standpoint, I can't say that what you're saying is wrong,
right?
But I feel like there's a ton of assumptions we can make about this game, about what it's going to be. I feel like there's far less mystification around this game than there is around what is the Naughty Dog game, Interstellar, Intergalactic.
That one, Interstellar.
So. Like I mean, I jumped on people who were running around waving their terrible towels, saying this is going to be the next banger, and I was like, you guys are.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. Sorry,
okay,
not Interstellar.
Yeah. So I jumped on people running around with waving their terrible towels, saying that this was the next banger and it's going to be this and it's going to be that. And I'm like, you guys are just like the Starfield fans who are running around claiming the same thing when we do absolutely nothing about Starfield. Because you know nothing about what this game or what the setup is. You can assume it's Uncharted in space. But again, you guys threw the same shade at Starfield saying that it was Oblivion in space. So, but with this game, I feel like it's a relatively safe bet. What it says, and don't in the chat and in the comments, don't start the same thing that you guys started last time about, oh, you can't compare that to Starfield. Again, the comparison is not to the game. The comparison is to the marketing and messaging and the fandom response. So some of you guys who came over that wire last time got out over your skis and maybe showed a lack of understanding of like the common basic reading comprehension tests that are shown that are taken for standardized testing. But again, the analogy I'm talking about is the play on the marketing, what we know about the game, and the fandom response, and the people who are way overboard, right, claiming that they know that the game is a guaranteed success, in my opinion. And again, that's based on Intergalactic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't pick up, like I said, on that this was a Housemarque game. And actually, I should have really picked up when I saw the bullet hell in his eyes. That would have been the dead giveaway right there too, because that is very similar to the bullet hell you see in Returnal. I'm a big fan. Resogun. What was the other game that came out with Housemarque made back in the days? I just love what I love about Housemarque is just the creative leap and the leap of production that the studio's taken from doing something like Resogun to Returnal and now to this game. And I'm day one. I cannot wait. I think this game I still think Returnal is one of the better looking PlayStation 5 games, and I would expect probably the same from Saros as well. So I'm excited. All right, so that rounds out the games they showed. Logic, is there anything that this website maybe have missed? I know if there was one. Just want to make sure we didn't miss anything.
I didn't see anything that really jumped out at me as being missed as you scroll through. I notice as you always do. I notice as you always do, you skip by anything which didn't cross your threshold of being worth your notice.
Oh yeah, you saw he just skipped over a couple of them. He's like, just Yakuza. Who cares about that?
Oh yeah, there was the Yakuza games. Well, I didn't see that here. I didn't see. There were Dave the Diver and Yakuza. I thought that was cool. But that wasn't on the website here that I'm looking at. No, that wasn't on the website.
Yeah, so that's so Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii drops a new demo this Friday. Yep. And as you mentioned, Dave the Diver gets Yakuza holiday DLC in April. Yeah.
What else did I miss? So is there other stuff there that because I was on this particular website, Forte. So not all the websites have all the games, by the way, or not all the games up yet.
So the rundown was Monster Hunter Wilds, Shinobi Art of Vengeance, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Did you skipped over Digimon? I don't know if that wasn't on the site. Digimon Storytime Stranger, Lost Soul Aside, Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, Dave the Diver, Yakuza DLC, WWE 2K25, Borderlands 4. The interesting thing I'll say about Borderlands 4 is I felt what I saw in Borderlands 4 was a lot of incorporation of a lot of additional game mechanics and shooters that have not been in the Borderlands series before, that it looks like they're sticking in. So I thought I saw like the throwing of the gun thing that is in I Am Your Beast. I thought I saw it seemed like there was a point where he generated like a hologram exoskeleton, and so for a short period of time it felt like he was like in a mech, which I was trying to remember where I've seen that before. It's such a deep cut. That is a thing that was in the Lost in Space remake with Matthew LeBlanc. The little kid, I forget what the little kid's character's name is in Lost in Space, but he does a thing where he generates like a hologram, like robot exoskeleton, or takes control of the robot or something, and is in like a mech hologram exosuit for a period of time. But there were a few other mechanics in there that I saw that I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. There was Split Fiction, which I don't think we talked about tonight, from EA, which I thought was a big marketing get, to have EA put that game front and center in the showcase. Directive 8022, which we talked about, Five Nights at Freddy's, The Midnight Walk, which I talked about, he was on that site, Darwin's Paradox, Warriors Abyss, Onimusha 2, Sunrise Destiny, Onimusha Way of the Sword. At this point, as I'm going through the rundown, anybody who's talking about there weren't a lot of games in this, like I don't know what yardstick you're using. Onimusha Way of the Sword, Metal Gear Solid, Snake Eater, Hell Is Us, Liza P. Overture, Dreams of Another, Days Gone Remastered, Stellar Blade and Goddess of Victory, Nikki DLC, Blue Prince, Abiotic Factor, Tides of Annihilation, Metal Eden, Mind's Eye, and Saros. Forte, I want to ask you, as I just went through that exhaustive list, which I couldn't finish in one breath, that I started hearing the TGA's, get him off the stage music playing as I was reading through this. How do you feel this plays out strategically in contrast to the earlier Xbox showcase that showed 4 games?
I think it's interesting. I think my biggest frustration is the fact of not really showcasing a lot of the bigger games from the first party. Like, I found myself, as I always do with these state of plays, wondering when PlayStation is going to start showcasing their own games. Even if we go back to their latest state, their PlayStation showcase, which was the last one was May 23rd of 2023, almost 2 years ago. Even in that showcase, we really didn't get first party until we got to Spider-Man, where they showed gameplay for Spider-Man 2 at the very end of it. So I think it's just mostly a frustration around that, where Xbox has so many studios. It's kind of like a built-in way for them to always have content to like really showcase their games and stuff. So PlayStation is not in that same place, especially with a lot of the cancellations of their games. So I think you're really seeing a lot of that right now. But due to the fact that Xbox has definitely showcased what games are coming to their platform and other platforms, it's just two different ideas of the way of doing it. But if I was PlayStation, and I talked about this on our show, Xbox announced Indiana Jones coming to PlayStation. That's November 14th. So, February 14th, Valentine's Day. And then we also got the announcement of Forza going over to PlayStation this spring. I thought that would have been a good opportunity for them to like kind of showcase that. Now, Slow-Mo was disagreeing. He said, why would Sony give them any energy? But I'm thinking, like, what kind of energy is it going to give? Xbox really ain't selling consoles like that right now. So I can understand if it was like a neck and neck thing and they didn't want to do that showcase. But I mean, that's just kind of leaving money on the table for me, because I feel like those are games that people would want to play, especially a game like Forza, where I feel like that's going to be the best racing game on that console, because it's a open world arcade racer. I thought something like that should be there, just to showcase what's coming from even your competitors. And PlayStation hasn't been shy of being super crazy when it comes to like how they go about talking about how Xbox is and everything. So I thought it could have been better, but I think it wasn't a terrible show in general. It just came down to just two different ideologies about how you're going to talk about your games. And I feel like the days of PlayStation talking about 3 and 4 of their first party games coming out within a year to 2 year span, it feels like that's almost over at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was notable that there were no Xbox games in this showcase. I don't have a feeling about whether that was right or wrong or bad or good, but I thought it was notable. One thing I want to ask too is so given the position of the two, I mean, so you say, Xbox has like this built-in ability to show its first party that PlayStation maybe doesn't necessarily have, because they're gated by the production pipeline, like when games are ready to be shown. One thing I want to ask you is, again, from the rubric you apply to these shows, if I think about the Xbox strategy and what they've been doing, one of the things that has, recently sprung to mind that I think is factual and pertinent is, if there's a risk that third-party support for your console is going to dry up and people aren't making games for your console, because we see multiple publishers, multiple developers skipping Xbox because they're up against Game Pass as a competitive force, then the way to respond to that is, I just buy a bunch of studios and I make the games my damn self, right? Which is
right.
So many times in my work career, I have said, why are we farkling around with not having things in our control? If we have a problem, just go buy the damn thing so that we control it, right? And when we often talk on the show the comparison between PlayStation and Apple, and I talk about how Apple said, there's a thing that we need, Intel's not providing it, So let's just make our own damn chips, right? That's how you solve that problem. Xbox is kind of, and again, I often talk about that comparison to PlayStation. This is an instance where Xbox has definitely taken a page out of that book. And they've said, if we want to be masters of our fate and we want to drive the car in a certain direction, we need to have control, right, of all the control surfaces. Let's buy the studios, be able to fulfill our own portfolio so that if other people fail us, if partners fail us, we're not dependent upon those partners. That's not the route PlayStation is going. PlayStation has competitive market share. So they say, I'm not really worried about third parties not making games for my console, right? They're going to make games for my console because I have the most players. So does that set a different set of expectations? Is it, I hate to use the term fair, but like, is it fair to apply the same rubric, or are the optics on that different? I just, what do you think?
I won't say that it's not that it's not fair. I just feel like it's just a different way of going about it. Like, PlayStation hasn't really talked about their first party stuff like Xbox. Even before Xbox purchased all these studios, they still talked about their first party more than anything. They had a lot of third party stuff at their showcases, but first party was never really an option. It just came down to the quality and the amount of first party we're getting, because even if you go back to like 2013 through 2015, where they only had three first party studios at that point. So I just think it's never really been an issue with Xbox when it came to that. Whereas PlayStation, over the course of like the last 5 years, it feels like that amount of offerings and the cadence that it released and they talk about was something that is kind of been noticeable since then. Like, when they announced the PS5 and the PS5 came out, we celebrated the fact that they actually had launch games. Like, Ratchet & Clank came out that year as a launch title. Returnal was a launch title. They still had Bethesda with a couple of games that were launch titles when it came. Well, not launch titles, but launch year. So they had a lot of stuff that they showcased. But now we're starting to see, especially since they had that big change in their philosophy when they were doing like live service games and everything. Now you're starting to see a little bit of that kind of change over. And I don't really know how that's going to be different, especially right now with all the cancellations of the games. We know that they're still working on games, but we don't know what the timeline on those games are. And I think that's the thing that people are kind of wondering at this point.
I've definitely thought it was curious, right, as we talk through all that, and PlayStation being able to lean heavily on third party, which I think they've always done. Although like it's definitely been a shifting competitive landscape, right? Because I used to say back in like the original Xbox era, I would grab my third party games on Xbox, right? Because I felt they were better than what I would get on PlayStation 2 for third party. But again, that was just me.
Mm-hmm.
Twisted said, so I've wondered, hey, is the thing to do now to rely on third parties for live service? That seems to me that would be a natural choice to make. If you think your portfolio is weak from a third party, then cultivate, right, third parties showing up to your system with live service games. That also makes the worry about ROI and investment, like if that game doesn't make it, not on you. Maybe you have to pay some more incentives to get those things on your platform, particularly if you want to make them exclusive. But I don't know. Twisted Sid mentions in the chat, I'm just glad not one gas game was in there. What I will say is they did show Splitgate. So it was quick. It was when Sean Benson was on stage, and she mentioned as part of the third party. I actually thought that was interesting. Again, being a live service guy now, again, I don't have a PlayStation 5, so I'm not going to play it. But Splitgate showing up on PlayStation 5 when I'm on PC with crossplay enabled just means more players to be match made against in a healthier, active online user community. So I wondered, Splitgate showing up makes me wonder, are they going to start cultivating more live service games from third parties? And de-risking that, being in their own investment portfolio. Yeah,
that actually wouldn't surprise me, considering some of the challenges they've had with the live service more recently. I mean, obviously they knocked it out of the park with Helldivers 2, but that's just one game, right? We know they have other games in the pipeline, so that could be something they do, that they lean on third party. Hey, that's and risk reward, it's less risk, maybe higher reward, if those games take off, because again, they get that 30% cut of the game sales, plus they'll get a fee, they get a piece of any microtransactions and things like that. And that could be again, we're speculating here, but
crossplay that's enabled, they have that
exactly
clause.
Exactly. So I mean, that could be the path that they're taking. They could be maybe more focusing from a first party perspective on doing that kind of tried and true PlayStation formula, maybe. But I do want to say, like, overall, like for me, like I just like the show, I thought it was a good show. I tend to judge these shows on, were there any games that either that I would either buy or that I might be interested in? That's how I kind of look at these shows.
Yeah,
and I just judge them based on that. Yeah, I don't sit there and say that this show's an L or or it was a miss. If there wasn't anything on the show that wasn't of interest to me, then I say, it's not. It just wasn't a show for me. Right.
Doesn't mean it was a bad show. Just means, it's always something in a show for everybody or somebody. It just means, for me, I'm at a part where most of these games you can play pretty much anywhere. And that's kind of the barometer you kind of use at this point now when it comes to like just talking about, especially a lot of these games, the fact that most of these games are coming to every platform. That's all that I kind of think about at this point. Like, does it really matter that it's on PlayStation if I already have a PC or I have an Xbox to play it on?
Bro, 29 games showed in the showcase, and that does not count the little bit of Trailer Palooza that Sean Benson came out and showed, or the ones that I forget what her name was with the community manager.
The community manager,
showed in the quick clip.
That's a lot of games. I mean, again, it goes back to games. Yeah, I mean, like it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, as much as people want to doom and gloom the industry, for an industry that's supposedly having struggles with growth and reaching players. I mean, my takeaways: developers are still making games. And they're making a variety of games that could cater to different gamers. And maybe that's the solution. Maybe it isn't just cranking out a COD clone or Fortnite clone, but rather just trying to take creative chances or risk and making games. I think Jaffe said that when he was on the show last time with us. But making games that maybe appeal to a wider palette. Shaw Layden's talked about that, if I'm not mistaken, about ways to kind of grow and bring different consumers into gaming.
I mean, I'll definitely say key takeaway for me that I feel like maybe not a ton of reasons to go out and spend $700 on a PlayStation 5 Pro, but absolutely, hands down, unquestionably, I will not entertain any argument. Sufficient reason to go out and buy a PlayStation 5, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still think that's kind of a weak point for Sony right now, the PS5 Pro. At least for me, they haven't given me a reason to go out to buy a PlayStation 5 Pro. So I don't disagree with you, Logic. Forte, are you botting Forte?
Why you say that?
I don't know. My screen looks. Yeah, my screen looks.
Video's been sketchy.
Oh, my camera! Yeah. I gotta probably reset it because it's been acting up as of late.
It's like this is like Forte. This is like when we first were introduced to video calls. Like 20.
That's weird.
What are you going through for an interface? Forte? Are you going through a Blackmagic?
No,
or an ATEM?
What is it called?
The Elgato.
Yeah, the Cam Link.
Yeah,
okay, gotcha.
Normally doesn't do that. I don't know why it's doing it now, but
I consistently had problems with my Cam Link and I threw it away. I don't use it anymore. I use the Blackmagic, either the web presenter or the ATEM Pro Mini.
But you might have to switch up, Forte.
You said what?
You might have to switch up.
It only happens on StreamYards though.
But that's my point of switching to the Blackmagic was Blackmagic never had a problem. Right? So
I agree 100%.
Don't blame it on StreamYard, Forte. Any other time, you're good, man.
That's what I said. Usually on StreamYards is the only place.
Yeah. So
do PC GPUs give people a reason to buy them? Is NVIDIA producing games that NVIDIA doesn't produce games because they're not a game publisher. But do PC GPUs give people a reason to buy them? I would say the industry gives people reasons to buy GPUs.
I mean, some of the feature sets that NVIDIA puts in their GPUs gives people reason to buy GPUs. And even just, but people also buy GPUs because, like you said, the industry or what the developers are putting out. Like, people literally bought or upgraded their GPUs so they could get the best experience of what was the game of Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
You know,
people buy GPUs. PC gamers buy GPUs because they want the best. That's just the answer to it, and they want control over their gaming experience. Specifically, they buy GPUs, high-end GPUs, because they want the best. Whether or not it's impactful, whether or not it makes a difference, yada yada yada. Again, I mean, do people buy Ferraris because they have the need for 590 horsepower to commute back and forth to work? No. But people buy GPUs because high-end GPUs because they want the best. And also the $2,000 rubric, I wouldn't use that as the rubric. The RTX 5090 is not a consumer grade GPU. That is a prosumer grade GPU that is meant for content creators at the high end, and also for people who want to do AI ML work. I have been online very much saying nobody who's worrying about video games needs to be sweating and complaining and bitching and whining about the RTX 5090. Buy the RTX 5080. It's a $1,000 card. Also, take note, because people seem to be bypassing and skipping this, there's a $1,000 gap between the 5080 and 5090, which is unprecedented in that product line. There has never been that large of a gap, and that gap therefore must exist for a reason. It exists because you are going to get a 5080 Ti, a 5080 Super, a 5080 Super Ti, and it's going to be able to fill in that gap between $1,000 and $1,500, and leave plenty of room for them to stuff the SKUs. So.
Yeah, I just want to, what Chad said is, but that also applies to the Pro. Look, I'm not saying that people don't buy the Pro to get better experiences of games. What I'm saying is, for me, for a BRAP, the consumer, in this instance of a Pro console, PlayStation really hasn't given me a reason to upgrade as they did with the PlayStation 4 Pro. I just felt like, for me, they gave me a more compelling reason to upgrade from the base PS4 to the PS4 Pro, and that solely had to do with some of the first party games that were coming down their pipeline shortly after the release of the PS4 Pro.
Yeah, Chad said asked they say no. The MSRP on the 5080 is $999. Yeah. I mean, my thing about the Pro, and again, I don't know if it's relevant, right? It's just how I feel like and we've had this with PlayStation before, right? PlayStation has put products out that they don't talk about, and what seems to remarkably track is those wind up becoming products that they wind up eventually not supporting. Now, I don't think that for a minute that's going to happen with the PlayStation 5 Pro, but the voice track on the PlayStation 5 Pro right now, to me, seems to be very analogous to VR2 and Vita. Like, I don't hear a lot of conversation. They put the thing out there, they just let it float. Now, what I feel like they did is they did the same thing with the PlayStation 4 Pro, but I feel like I actively saw cultivation of and discussion and marketing and messaging around games that were coming out that warranted you stepping up. We also saw collector's editions of the console, right? We had the Destiny 2 collector's edition. We had multiple collector's editions around the PlayStation 4 Pro. I just don't see that activity around the PlayStation 5 Pro is all I'm saying.
No. All right. We may talk more about the showcase maybe Friday on our regular schedule BRAP, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We may have different perspectives after, digesting the show 48 hours later. So, but I do want to give a shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thanks so much for coming by, hanging out with us. And please do me a favor, hit that like button if you haven't done so already. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, consider subscribing and supporting the channel that way. Also give a big shout out to Pixelated Forte for stopping by.
Yo, as always, DPS podcast Thursday, 9 p.m. with the homie. May have a special guest. Don't know. I'll ask him after the show at some point today. But
no, you can confirm.
Oh, well, Game Logic. He's probably more than likely going to come on the show with us. So
not more than likely, sir. It is a guarantee.
Oh, there it is.
Unless something happens outside of my control, I will be there. Seated, fully dressed.
Seated. There we are. All right. Well, can't wait to see that tomorrow. Going to be a great time. And once again, awesome show. And I'm glad to be here with you guys.
Yeah, Forte, thanks for coming through, man. I really appreciate it. Didn't forget about you, sir. That's why I dropped that link in the BRAP DM. I think it was last week. You're like, where's the link? So, but great to see you, Forte. Also, go ahead, Forte.
No, go ahead.
I also want to give a big shout out to Game Logic as well. Appreciate you coming through, Logic. I know it's kind of like last minute, but thank you as always. And love the Nuketown t-shirt, by the way.
Nuketown.
Logic has me playing COD again, by the way.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That's what's up.
Had some good matches this week. or this weekend. He just shakes his head. He's like, "Yeah."
I posted earlier today. Fortunately, I actually went back to Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, just out of curiosity. I was surprised that there's tons of people still playing Black Ops Cold War. 4-year-old.
Yeah, there is.
Duty.
I was surprised that there were sweaties on at lunchtime the other day. I thought I was gonna take a quick lunch break, go on COD, get some points, get some experience points, and level up my character. And there's some sweaties, and I'm like, oh, okay. 12:30 in the afternoon.
Gotta love it. Gotta love the sweat.
Yeah, gotta love it. Yeah, all times of day. So, but we'll be back this Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So come back, hang out with us then. And who knows? We may digest this showcase a bit more after. I mean, I'm just honestly, I'd be curious to see like what our thoughts are like after kind of digesting the show a bit more 48 hours from now. So
we also haven't had a chance to talk the Super Bowl, so there might be bits and pieces of that too.
Oh, we'll definitely talk about the Super Bowl. Yeah, so
the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but on that note, we are out. Please join us again this Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you again for hanging out with us this evening. Big shout out to Logic and Forte, and we'll see you next. I'm gonna say next Friday. We'll see you this Friday. Take care.
Yoshi.